Hello everybody. Right, I've been asked what is the best way to join squares. So I've got two examples and they look very much the same until you see the back. This first one is what we call a flat join. It's better for blankets. You would normally do it in the same colour, but for this teaching exercise I've done it in a different colour. Now this one is good for cushions and things that's hidden because it does have a ridge on the wrong side. So that's two ways to do it. That's sewn, this is crocheted. So the first one I'm going to show you is the flat sewn one. You have to remember to put the right piece to the right bit so that you get all the backs and all the fronts at the same way. And what you do is you put front to front and measure it up, and it should measure exactly. And if my able assistant will come closer, we'll be able to see. So you go in to the corner, making sure that you are actually passing through the corner of the square. And you start off by doing 2 or 3 passover stitches. Like so. Making sure that it always marries up. You go just over and over, making sure you go through each V of each stitch. It's very important to take time on this. It will give you a good effect. So, moving on, going over and catching. It's tempting not to pull too tight, but to have it too slack gives you holes. So have it midway tension. You're just going over and over, making sure you catch each stitch. You can check it by putting your finger in the hole, and then you always know that you're marrying up the right bit. So this is called a sewing flat join because it joins flat, and you can see that if it was in the same colour it would be quite hidden. But I've just made this into a design feature so that you can see it on the video. Almost done. Check my hole again. It is important to go through both heads of the stitch or you will end up with holes. As you can see, it doesn't take a long time, but it's worth doing properly. Checking that hole there. Until you get right up to the corner. Now each one you would join, making sure you go into the corners. Do a couple of little stitches. If you're at the end of the row, you'd go up, finish it off, and then break it off, and you get a nice, that should be on the inside, but I'll sort that out with a hook, a nice straight edge, flat on both sides. So once you've sewn your ends in, that'd make a lovely flat blanket. So now on to the crocheted edge. You should always make sure that your crocheted edge is on the reverse of your work. So you put the right sides together and you get your thread. Like I said, normally I would do it in corresponding thread, but it's so much easier for you to see. You go right into the corner, so you start off the exact same way, and you do a join like that. I find it's easier to put your finger in the hole, and you're doing exactly the same as the sewn, going through the gap like that of each stitch and that gap, and you are doing just a double crochet, so in between the stitches there, in between the stitches. It is important on this one to marry it up. If it's done in the same colour, it's not so obvious. If you're using it as a design feature, then it is. So this gives a strong join. So for cushions like I'm making, this is an ideal join, because it gives a nice strong effect. You can only do these kind of things with squares that are the same size. You can also do this with knitted squares, making sure that you go on the same bit of the row. It's the same principle. Nearly at the end. Last couple of stitches. Making sure I'm going right into the corner one there, and then I would just do a stitch like that, break it off, pull it through, and that is my join, like so. So that's the front, which would be the front of a cushion, and that would be the back because it's hidden. So you can see the difference. That one's flat on both sides for a blanket, and that one's flat on one side. I like to do blankets with that. It doesn't bother me, but it does some people, especially when you're doing a baby blanket. It can be quite harsh. So I hope that's helping you in you joining squares, and all I can say is happy hooking.